Hi there, welcome to That Board Game Show. My name is James Wood, and today I'm going to show you Design Town, a city deck building game for 1 to 4 players. Congratulations! You have just been elected mayor of this wonderful small town. You have great plans for your time in office. You would like to develop your town and make it prosper, so that you win the competition with the other mayors of this country. Fame, fortune, and a re-election await you. Be careful though. If you develop your town without respect to its citizens, they will soon make an end to your leadership. At the beginning of the game, each player is dealt 5 cards, consisting of 1 apartment and 4 residential areas. And you will notice that all of these cards are double-sided. So all your residential areas can also be apartments, and all your apartments can be residential areas. The same applies for all the cards in the central display here. I'll get to those and explain what the different sides do as we acquire them and add them to our town. So to show you how it all works, I'm just going to dive into the first round, play out a few turns, and explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So the first thing we do is we pick up our deck of 5 cards and give it a good shuffle, making sure that we don't look at it while doing so. They actually recommend in the rulebook, if you struggle to shuffle cards without looking at them, to do so under the table. Because, as I said earlier, all the cards are double-sided, so there is no card back, so you can always see the top card of your deck, which we now know is a residential area. And the residential area says, if residential area is the top card of your deck, you must play it. So on a turn of Design Town, you will always play 1 card by default. So let's play that first card. Boom. There is our residential area played. That residential area gives us 1 income and 1 discontent. That is representing our citizens getting a bit angry with us because they're all crowded together in this residential area and they're not too happy about it. So now the next thing I could do, I could play this apartment, which you will notice does not say that it must be played. But if I did so, I would be revealing a second discontent, and I'd be making my citizens more angry. And as you saw in setup, I know that the rest of the cards in this deck are residential areas. So now I have to think about if I want to play that and potentially bust and end my turn. As soon as you reveal 3 discontent, your turn ends immediately and play passes to the next player. You will notice there is no next player here today. I'm all by myself. So I'm actually showing you the solo mode for Design Town. The solo mode plays like the normal game in pretty much every respect, except for one primary difference. Each of these decks consists of only 4 cards. With more players, there would be more cards there. Which brings me to one of the ways that the game will end. There are 3 ways for the game to end in the solo mode. Way number 1 is for you to score 8 points on your turn. Way number 2 is for you to play out 18 or more cards on your turn. And way number 3 is if all of these cards in the central display have been discarded or acquired into your deck. How these get discarded is twofold. 1, we will be buying them throughout the game and add them to our deck. And 2, in the solo mode specifically, every time I shuffle my deck, so every time I've played through my entire deck and I go to shuffle it to generate a new draw deck, I will discard one of these cards of my choosing. So that is the game end countdown, and it simulates another player being there and removing cards from the central display. So back to my turn. I've played my residential area. I have this apartment on top of my deck. If I play this, I know I'm going to reveal another residential area, which I'm actually going to do, because there's nothing I can do with 1 income. You will see all these cards in the central display, this number at the top of them, is the cost. That is how much it will cost to add that building to your town. So at the moment, I only have one income. That is not enough to buy anything. So I will play this apartment. Okay. I now have 2 discontent. I must now play this residential area, which means my turn is now over because I have revealed 3 discontent. The people of my town start rioting, picketing, and getting generally really annoyed with me, and they all go marching off, and I don't get any control or any say in what they do. Now, it would proceed to the next player. There is no next player, so it goes around the table, back to me, and I play this residential area. So that was actually an intentional and strategic bust. That was a strategic fail. Because now I know that I only have 2 cards left, both of which are residential areas. And now you'll see I have no deck. You'll notice something unique about this game is you have to hold your deck in your hand the whole time. You don't leave it sitting on the table like in most deck builders. The reason for that is because all the cards are double-sided, you need to make sure you're holding your deck nice and firm so that only that top card is visible. So now, because I've played out these 2 residential areas, I have no deck left. I don't have a residential area that I must play. So now I have 2 income, which I can spend. So it's tempting to buy one of these cards over here, because now I'm adding cards into my deck that do not have discontent on them. But what I'm actually going to do first is I'm going to spend only 1 income, not the 2 that I've got, and I'm going to upgrade a residential area, which is one of the 3 options you have after playing out your cards. You will see here, option number 1 is to purchase a card from the central display, which I could do with my 2 income, or you may upgrade 1 card in your discard pile. You can never upgrade a card unless it's sitting in your discard pile. Or there's a third option, which is develop. Developing allows you to simultaneously purchase a card from the central display and then upgrade it at the same time, paying the full cost for both. The cost for upgrading is denoted by this purple number over here. So to upgrade a residential area into an apartment costs 1 income. So I will upgrade this residential area into an apartment, which is now in my discard pile. Now I have reduced the number of residential areas in my discard pile, thereby improving my town somewhat from a fairly mediocre residential area to a much more sophisticated apartment, thereby making my people slightly happier. You'll notice I say slightly because that card still has a discontent on it. So those people aren't entirely happy, they're just slightly more happy than they were in the residential area. And I now discard these residential areas, which have this negative effect, which forces you to play them. So now I've turned one of those negative cards into a card that I have a bit more control over. And I'll pick up my discard pile because I have no deck. I give it a shuffle, making sure I don't look at it while doing so. Hold it in my hand so only that top card is visible. And now I can take a look and I see a residential area. I must play that. Another residential area, must play that. And another residential area, oh dear, must play that. Now I've played 3 discontent, where people are not in a good mood, and they all go marching off and I don't get to tell them what to do. And I just remembered that I forgot to discard one of these cards when I shuffled my deck. I do tend to do that. And something that I find is rather easy to forget when playing the solo mode is every time you shuffle your deck, you must discard one of these cards at random. So I know from when I set up that there's 4 cards in each of these decks. So I'm just going to discard this one for now, because I can see that's going to cost 7 income. I'm not going to be able to afford that for quite a while. So I'm not too worried about that disappearing and limiting my options later on. So I'll discard that off to the side, out of the game. Then I played that last turn, technically. Now it's my turn again. I have this apartment on top of my deck. So I shall play that. Now I've got 1 income. I could choose to stop playing and upgrade another residential area in my discard pile, or I could choose to push, play 1 more card, and then buy something from the central display. What I think I'm going to do, as much as I want to show you cards from the central display, I also want to control my future turns a bit better. So I'm going to play this 1 apartment with this 1 income. I'm not going to keep drawing, and I'm going to upgrade this residential area. I then discard that apartment, and now it's my turn again. I play that apartment, and again I'm going to upgrade a residential area in my discard pile. Now I discard that apartment, and now you can see I have developed my town quite substantially into all these wonderful apartments instead of these fairly mediocre residential areas, which will give me a lot more control over my future turns. So I now shuffle up that discard pile without looking at it, and away I go. And there's that residential area. Must play that. Now I have all apartments in my deck, so I'm going to play this apartment. And then I'm going to stop playing, because if I played this third one, my discontent would be too much and my turn would end. Now I can show you what it is to buy a card. I'm going to take my 2 income that I've earned, which will allow me to buy either a flea market or a convenience store. So let's look at what those 2 cards are and decide which one we want. This flea market says you may leave it in your discard pile when you shuffle your deck, and you'll see it's got this little green arrow with a single income. What the green arrow denotes is a downgrade. You'll see all of the cards in this central display have purple numbers, which means that they start not upgraded. This flea market is a bit different. It starts with this green arrow, which means it's starting on its upgraded side, and in a future turn you can downgrade it for a benefit, and that benefit is 1 income. So for instance, if I had just played these 2 cards and I had this flea market sitting in my discard pile, I could downgrade it, turning it into a trash can, gaining me an income, which would mean I would have 3 income, which at this stage wouldn't help me tremendously because the next expensive building is this hospital, which costs 4 income. But you can see how that could be useful. If I can have a couple of flea markets in my deck, I can generate that extra income whenever I need it and not risk causing further discontent. So that's the flea market / trash can. The other card I could afford to buy is this convenience store for 2 income. But before I do that, I just remembered that I did not discard one of these cards when I shuffled my deck earlier, which I keep forgetting to do. So let me discard. Let's discard this factory. Again, we're going to discard these more expensive cards because I'm not likely to afford them anytime soon. So we'll discard that off to the side and keep going. Okay, so this convenience store says if you played 18 or more cards on your turn, you win at the end of the building phase. So at the moment, I'm in the building phase. I've played my cards out, which is the card phase. And now, after you've played out your cards, you enter the building phase, which is where I am right now. So at the end of this phase, if I had played the convenience store plus 18 additional cards, I would win. The other way to win is to earn 8 points during your card phase. And points are denoted by this symbol here. So you can see at the moment, the only way to earn points is to buy this central park. And the other benefit of the convenience store is that it gives me 1 income and no discontent. So that can help me buy more expensive buildings later on. So I think I'm going to buy this convenience store. That's what I'm going to do with my 2 income that I earned during the card phase. Those cards all go off into my discard pile. I've now added a convenience store to my little town, which in a future turn I could upgrade into a shopping mall, which you can see has a little victory point symbol. So that shopping mall is another way to earn points and potentially win the game. And it earns you more income, but that costs 3 income to upgrade. So that's not a terribly easy one to upgrade, but it's a good one to work towards. Okay, so that was the end of my turn. I now play 1 card. You always play 1 card by default. I could choose to stop playing and upgrade that last residential area, but I'm going to rather keep going and try to get some more cards. So I'm going to play a second apartment. I now have 2 income. I think I'll buy a second convenience store, and we'll try to get these working together and maybe upgrade one of them into a shopping mall in a future turn. Okay, so that convenience store goes into my deck. Make sure while you're playing that you always put it in your deck and keep it in the correct orientation, because the side it's on is the active side. If you accidentally flip that over, then all of a sudden you've upgraded it without actually paying for that. You can't do that. That would be cheating. So I'm going to discard those 2 apartments into my deck. Play another turn. I'm going to play this singular apartment. And now I don't want to stop there at 1 income. I want to rather pick up my deck, give it a shuffle, and keep on drawing. Okay, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Give it a good shuffle without looking at the deck. And then remember to discard one of these cards because I'm playing the solo mode. So let's discard this flea market. I don't think I'm going to buy lots of flea markets. And I'm still in the card phase. I've only played 1 card. So I'm going to play the second apartment. Whoopsie. And now I saw what's coming, so I'm going to give my deck another shuffle. And I now have a convenience store on top. Oh, fancy that. So now I'll play my convenience store. And I'll have 2 income and a residential area on top of my deck, which I must play. No choice in the matter there. I now have 3 income and an apartment on top of my deck. So if I chose to keep playing, I would end my turn immediately because my people would be angry. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to spend this 3 income, which is rather unfortunate because if I had this convenience store in my discard pile, I could spend that 3 income to upgrade it. But I can't do that because it's not in my discard pile, it is in my play area. I can't afford a hospital because that cost 4 income. So I will buy a flea market into my discard pile, discard all of these, add a little flea market to my town. So as you can see, my little town has gone from just a bunch of residential areas and 1 apartment building to a whole block of apartment buildings, a couple convenience stores, a flea market. So this tiny little town is really starting to flourish and grow. So that makes me a pretty happy mayor because I'm starting to bring in these buildings. You'll see these ones here that I've just added, this flea market and this convenience store, do not have discontent because those are places for my people to go to. If I just filled up my entire deck with apartments and residential areas, well, that's not going to be very happy because that's just lots of people crammed on top of each other. They want flea markets to go visit. They want convenience stores to go buy stuff at. Preferably, I want to get them a hospital and a factory for them to go work at, and maybe even a park for them to go and enjoy the beautiful scenery. So let's continue with another turn. Play that apartment. Play another apartment. Now I've got a convenience store on top of my deck, which I will play because I knew that there wasn't another residential area because my singular residential area is in my discard pile. And once again, I have 3 income, which is not enough to buy a hospital. I could buy another convenience store or flea market, but in the solo game, you do need to be careful about buying too many buildings because remember, the game ends if all of these piles are depleted. So I need to somehow play out a convenience store plus another 18 cards or earn 8 points on a turn before that happens. So by buying lots of cards in the solo mode, you are accelerating the game end. So what I'm rather going to do is spend this 3 income to upgrade my convenience store. Turning my second convenience store into a shopping mall. So instead of the shop around the corner, they now have a very large shopping center around the corner for them to go buy all sorts of goodies at. Like board games, maybe. Okay, so playing another turn, I shall play that apartment. I'm not going to push on. I'm going to spend that 1 income. And I'm going to upgrade this final residential area into a final apartment, and then discard that. You will see on the apartment that it costs 8 income to upgrade. And it says, flip this card and place it in your opponent's discard pile of your choice. So in a multiplayer game, that allows you to flip that card, get rid of a discontent from your deck, and add a residential area into someone else's. Since there aren't any other players in the solo mode, if I were to upgrade an apartment, which is a viable option to get rid of that discontent, instead of adding it to another player, because there is no other player, I simply discard it out of the game and return it to the box. So that was just a quick side note on apartments. Let's give my deck a shuffle. And then remember to discard a card before I keep drawing. Shuffle, shuffle. Okay, discarding a card. Let us discard... Let's see, I've discarded a Central Park and a Factory so far, so there's still 3 of each of those available. And I think I will discard a hospital, because you can't have too many hospitals in your town. And I will continue playing. Let's play this apartment. Let's play this flea market, which I just remembered says you may choose to leave this card in your discard pile. I forgot to do that, so be it. I'll just keep on playing. But I could have left that in my discard pile when I shuffled the deck earlier. Okay, so play another card. I now have 2 discontent and 2 income. I have nothing in my discard pile to upgrade. So I am going to push, and I'm going to draw this convenience store and hope, there we go, that's what I was hoping to see. So I now have 1, 2, 3 income. Now I can play this shopping mall, which gives me 3, 4, 5 income. And because I upgraded that residential area earlier, it was safe to do so. It was safe to keep on drawing cards and get that additional income, because I wouldn't reveal a residential area which would make me play another discontent. So I'm sitting at my limit of discontent, but I'm fine. I haven't gone too far. And I now have 5 income. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I will buy a factory and add a factory into my discard pile. Gather up all my cards. Whoop. Oh my goodness. And discard them off to the side and keep going. Play out an apartment. I will play a second apartment. And now I've got 2 income. And I know that in my deck, I don't have anything that I can upgrade for just 2 income. You can freely look at your discard pile at any time in this game. So you can see here, nothing in my deck only costs 2 income to upgrade. I can't play this apartment because then I would reveal a 3rd discontent and end my turn prematurely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend that 2 income and I'm going to buy another flea market. Let's add that. Now I've got 2 flea markets in my deck. So let's set those aside because I can remember that I can leave those in my discard pile. Basically, those are now 2 guaranteed income for a future turn if I downgrade them. And there is no limit to how many cards you can downgrade on a turn, unlike buying cards or upgrading cards where you can only do 1. So let's discard all those, discard these apartments, and continue playing. Play out an apartment, get 1 income. There is nothing I can do with 1 income. I could use one of my flea markets to get a 2nd income, but I'm rather going to pick up my discard pile, leaving those 2 flea markets. Where are they now? Okay, there's 1. Leaving those in my discard pile so I can use them to get additional income, and giving my deck a shuffle. And while I shuffle, I'll think about which card to get rid of. I will discard that last flea market because I've already got 2 of those in my deck. I'm probably not going to buy any more. I'll throw that off to the side. Let's just pull that in. Don't look at your deck while shuffling it. And keep going. Right, so I've got 1 income. I can play this convenience store for 1 more. And then I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to use those 2 income to buy another convenience store. Because remember, the convenience store, once upgraded, turns into a shopping mall, which has got a victory point on it, which is one of the ways to win. So I will use that 2 income to buy a convenience store, add that to my discard pile, make sure I keep these flea markets visible so that I can remember to use them, and keep playing. Play an apartment, 1 income, not enough to do anything with. Play another apartment, another 1 income, still not enough. But now I can play this shopping mall, which is 2 income, so I now have 4 income, which is enough to buy a hospital with. So let's add a hospital to our town. I think that's probably a good idea. And a hospital says, gain 1 income equal to the number of discontent played thus far, including this card. So technically this card counts as having 2 income, not just 1. And it will count every discontent played prior to it on a turn as 1 additional income. Specifically prior to it, not any discontent you play after it. So if a hospital's the first card you play on a turn, it's just 2 income. It doesn't count towards any future discontent you may play on that turn. And the upgraded hospital is a church. Well, fancy that. How do you turn a hospital into a church? That's a bit odd. And you'll see that the hospital says on this turn, you can increase your discontent limit by 1. So the church makes your people just a little bit happier. Let's flip that back over, discard these. So I think that gives you a pretty good sense of how Design Town plays. You will continue doing this, playing cards, upgrading buildings, adding buildings to your town, until either, in the solo mode, all of these cards are gone, or you have played a convenience store and 18 additional cards, which you can see as you play and get rid of discontent and cards that mitigate that is possible. Or if you can upgrade your convenience stores into shopping malls and add a couple parks into your town, which can also be upgraded into train stations, which are worth even more points. And you'll see a train station in your discard pile can be downgraded to give you an additional point. So on a turn, if you can generate 8 points, which is quite possible if you can just have 2 train stations and maybe a couple of shopping malls in your deck, you can quite easily get 8 points on a single turn. So I think I'll wrap it up there. That should give you a pretty good idea of how this compact little deck builder plays. And with that, I'll say thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show.